John, I think this would still be considered a beta test of some of the new upgrades that I've done here at the studio this week. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm well. I've moved my microphone away. So talk about studio. We
Yes,
have increased the distance in order to not have such boomy, NPR sounding audio. What
right.
the comments read. So
Well,
I want everybody to know we're paying attention.
we are paying attention. We're always trying to improve the quality of the presentation for our viewers, for our sponsors. A lot of people know, John, on Fridays, we've got the sponsor exclusive show at subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth, and of course on Patreon as well. It's been really a great way, John, for you and I to work together, for the audience to get access to the type of information that, as Zach Voorhees pointed out last week, if we were to put this stuff out on YouTube, it's not a matter of being free or being behind a paywall. YouTube would just take it right down, shut down our channels. We would never gain any traction. So there are some people who go in there and say, "Oh, how could you put this information behind a paywall?" But I think most people get it at this point that this is really the only way to keep this investigation going and this type of information sustainable. There's a lot of things happening each week, it seems, relative
It's
to Las
incredible.
Vegas. What's new?
It's incredible. Well, there's a number of things that have happened in the past week. First of all, just want to do an audio check, make sure everybody can hear me okay.
I think it
Maybe
sounds
check the
good.
comments.
The other
Yeah.
thing I
Okay.
wanted to tell you that's very interesting is, given your location and some of the technical challenges that we have in connecting, part of the reason I wanted to get this fiber optic system and some of the other updates that I haven't gone into great detail about just yet was
Mhm.
for situations exactly like this. There have been some, interruptions and bandwidth issues between you and I connecting for this show. So I can tell you, I've got this little delay thing here, and it's at a much lower setting than it used to be at. So I think that the
Mhm.
increase of speed on this end is going to help us quite a lot on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's a lot of folks who watch who get frustrated with some of the technical aspects and the delay. Sometimes my audio cuts in and out. Um, again, we're doing the best we can, and
Yeah,
I'm amazed that it works at all. That we're able to
exactly.
do this simulcast thing. I'm amazed that this works. That we're able to simulcast like this over both channels. But bear with us. We're again, some of the settings here. We're looking at things like frame rates and compression rates and different compression and delay settings. It's complicated, and
Yeah.
I've never done this before. I'm not a YouTuber per se. I got a YouTube channel, but I'm not a YouTuber. My channel's not monetized, so all this stuff with streaming, this is all kind of new to me.
Uh-huh.
So please bear with us as we iron out these kinks and just understand that we're talking from all points around the world, and I'm always on the move. I mean, one of the things that Jason knows that I don't think the audience knows is how many times I've moved in Thailand.
Yeah.
And I think when Jason came to see me, which was almost a year ago, I had already moved 14 times. So I am, what this is one of the reasons for making this studio. So it always is going to look the same, no matter where I am, and that's part of the magic here. So, but bear with us because sometimes the connectivity is a little bit crazy. But this week we have some really interesting stuff. We were talking about Al Qaeda. We were talking about the Al Qaeda arrest. If you go to my video page, I say you're looking at the Johnny Hoover channel. If you go to the videos on the videos tab, you'll see one of the more recent videos is yeah, hit that, Al Qaeda over America, and this is part one of a three-part documentary that all told, all three parts together are 90 minutes. And I released this after the show that we did with Zach Voorhees last week.
Hmm.
And what this documents is not only the arrest of this Al Qaeda guy from Fallujah, but a whole number of other aspects of what appears to be Al Qaeda in America. And because these attacks are separated by 9 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years, you don't necessarily connect the dots. But when you pull the lens back and you look across a time frame of 20 years and you start to say, hey, wait a second, there's a pattern here. And you start to dig into that pattern, it's somewhat remarkable. I started the video out just by zooming in on the window just to show that there's no gunshots. Just I like putting a stake in the ground. But if you scrub forward, 5 minutes into the video, again, this one is 30 minutes, and this is part one. And so this is really going to break down. Yeah, this gets into this Al Qaeda arrest that took place at the end of January in Phoenix. This guy was the head of Al Qaeda in Fallujah. And yet this doesn't seem to make the news. This doesn't make the mainstream news. So we picked this up locally off of the local Arizona TV station. And if it wasn't for that, you'd never know. Same thing with that crash that we talked about at Vance Air Force Base in
Right.
Oklahoma. If it wasn't for the local news station, we would never know about that.
Good point.
Right? So these stories are just not hitting the mainstream media. And so the awareness of what's happening just isn't there. And the number of comments that I've seen, both on your page and on my page, where people have said, heard nothing about this.
Yeah.
This whole Butcher of Fallujah thing and the killing of these Blackwater guys, this was a big story when this happened. This was a big deal. Our whole Fallujah offensive was based on this, right? It was based on the fact that these guys got slaughtered. And we went into Fallujah twice. There were two offensives.
Yeah, I don't think it
And
really
this doesn't.
achieved anything.
Yeah, and then we find this guy, and this isn't newsworthy. How is this not newsworthy?
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to point out, John, earlier when you were talking about simulcasting, what you're referring to is the videos that we're putting out here on YouTube to just sort of let everybody know about the Subscribestar and Patreon shows and sort of summarize our topics. These videos are simulcast on the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. So if you're watching on one of the Crowdsource the Truth channels, make sure you get over to YouTube and look up John E. Hoover. You can watch on the John E. Hoover channel. We've got a lot of people watching and commenting on there. So John, we've got about looks like about 20 minutes until we head over to Patreon. What else do we want to get into that we're going to be discussing with regard to MGM's House of Cards toppling?
Well, I'm not sure who has seen this in the news this week, but I can tell you that it's so refreshing, and it's just such a great feeling when I lift my head up after working on these documentaries for days and days and days, and I don't check my emails. And Jason will tell you that. Jason sends me emails and I don't respond for 2-3 days. I just don't check. I'm busy. I'm making videos. So, but then when I pick my head up and the video is, finished and it's processing and rendering and all that, and I do go check the emails, I catch up with Jason, and then all of you guys, it's like there's this army. It's a militia of information. An information militia is what I call it. And people just keep sending more and more information to me. And it's just amazing. I lift my head up and it's there. And it's just fantastic. And so I can't thank you guys enough. So for those of you who keep sending emails and send information through Patreon and send the messages, I read every single one of them. I can't respond to every single one of them, but I read every one. And if you send me a link and you ask me to look at something, I'll look at it. If it's something I've seen before, that's when I don't respond. If it's something unique and it's something I haven't seen before, usually I'll send you a quick note and let you know that this was big and we're going to use it. So those of you who sent stuff this week, you're going to see it right now. So first of all, we have a letter here from Chuck Grassley. And Chuck Grassley sent a letter from the
Yeah.
United States Senate to the Honorable Mike Pompeo and the
Hmm.
Honorable Christopher Wray and the Honorable Mark Cummins, the acting director
Just last
of
week.
citizenship. What's that?
Just last week.
He just became the Honorable acting director, correct?
Well, I'm just saying he sent this letter just last week.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, February 13th is the date on the letter. Uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah. So sent it a week ago Wednesday. Also, this story about Al Qaeda, we should give some credit to a couple journalists who have been covering it. Katie Pavlich has been covering it. Katie's on Fox and appears on The Five from time to time, and she's been doing a great job. I'm a big fan of hers, and Katie covered the story. The other person who covered it was Pamela Geller. I don't know if you know Pamela Geller and if you're familiar with her work,
I don't
but
think
she
so.
covered the story as well. Okay, she has a site and she covered the story as well. So the net of it is that Senator Chuck Grassley has reached out to Mike Pompeo, and I think when we get to the Patreon show, I think we're going to spend some time and dig into this and read this letter. And this is about the arrest of the head of Al Qaeda in Arizona, and he's asking a whole bunch of questions about, how did this guy get here? He's been here for 12 years. When did we know so we're going to dig into this in the show. And then there's some other things that I uncovered in that 30-minute video that I think only has about 2,000 views, which is somewhat remarkable.
Hmm.
I changed all the tags, by the way, after the show with Zach last week.
Oh, yeah.
I, I changed the tags. So instead of tags like Las Vegas shooting and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I put in pink fluffy unicorns playing with kitties and puppies. Or
Did that make a
and
difference in
I'm not
viewership?
kidding. No, I got 2,100 views. So they're not keeping it down because of the hashtags. But that Al
Right.
Qaeda over America video uh, talks about what I'm about to show you right now. And this might be one of those moments, Jason, where we do some real on the fly research and you pop open a couple tabs real quick and you show people that this isn't nonsense.
Sure.
I'm reading here a story from Mail Online in the UK from Daily Mail about Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts, Hanscom Air Force Base. Suspicious moving truck caused a bomb scare at Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts, and it was partially evacuated for several hours due to a possible bomb. That was in July of 2017.
I don't remember hearing about that.
No. Next tab. Evacuations lifted after bomb threat at Kirtland Air Force Base. Albuquerque, New Mexico, May 2019. Evacuation orders were lifted at Kirtland Air Force Base Thursday after officials did a sweep, did not disclose if anything was found. Another bomb threat. Active duty service member arrested after bomb threat at Mississippi Air Force Base. May 2019. Kessler Air Force Base. Bomb threat. Kessler in Mississippi. American military news. Bomb threat forces evacuation for part of Florida Air Force Base.
It's a lot of bomb threats.
December. A lot of bomb threats, man. A lot of bomb threats. Luke Air Force Base gets all clear after bomb threat. February 7th, 2020.
Whoa.
That's 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're not hearing anything about that.
Okay, now, all right, pull that one up
What was it?
because,
What was the base?
Luke, Luke.
Biblical.
Well, it gets worse. Where do you see where it is? Remember last week we looked at the map and we looked at where the guy from the driving school lived, right? We looked at where his house was. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, he was arrested
This is one of these websites
January
that's not
31st.
letting me look at it with the ad blocker on. Hang on a second.
Ah, okay.
Luke Air Force Base. We got to get something else going here.
I've got this from CBS 5, 3TV, CBS 5. And the website is azfamily.com. azfamily.com
Here we got
news,
AZ
Luke Air
Central.
Force Base. Luke Air Force Base, that's it. Gives all clear after bomb threat. Things are back to normal. Luke Air Force Base after a bomb threat Friday morning. Well, the guy from Al Qaeda had just been arrested 1 week earlier.
Hmm.
Okay. Look at the location of Luke Air Force Base. Where does it say it's located?
I don't see.
Glendale, Arizona.
What does that mean?
Ali Ahmed's driving school is in Glendale, Arizona.
Hmm. It's certainly interesting. And I mean,
Luke,
he was what? He was the head of Al Qaeda or something major with Al Qaeda,
he,
right?
he's the head of Al Qaeda in Fallujah, living in Arizona for 12 years. And so, this takes us back to the guys who are training in Arizona at both Boeing and MD helicopters, we now know, right? So after we did the story about Len Tilton and MD helicopters, we now know that both of those companies are training Saudi pilots. So the question is, when these guys arrive in Arizona for flight training, are they connecting with the guy at the driving school through, the local mosque or whatever? And to what extent is the FBI on top of this? And I think the answer would have to be they're not if this guy's been here for 12 years.
Well, we don't know if they are or aren't. They seem to know a lot about people that conduct these mass shootings and other types of terrorist events. They just don't ever arrest them or prevent them from doing more of these things. So I don't know what we can
Like
determine about what they know and don't
Omar
know.
Mateen's father, right? Omar
Yeah,
Mateen's father, Omar Sadiq, was was an FBI informant,
right,
and they had interviewed Tsarnaev before the Boston bombing
right.
and let him go. And same thing. Did you see the footage of the police interrogating Nassim Agdam in the car in the Google lot at 1 o'clock in the morning? Did you see that footage?
No.
It is spectacular. So the police, there's three cops, and one of them is like a senior female police officer, like a senior female cop, right? And she says to Nassim, "You're not trying to hurt yourself, are you? You're not here to hurt anybody."
Where do you find that
I mean,
footage?
it was on YouTube, body cam, YouTube
Hmm.
shooter body cam footage, Google,
Wow.
and it'll
Well,
be,
we'll
and
definitely.
yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. So we'll have to dig into that when we get to the subscriber only hour. But the police, the whole thing is on body cam. Um, whether, again, this interaction takes place, it's filmed. Clearly, the police were concerned, and Nassim was able to. There you go. Nassim is able to convince the police that that everything's fine. Yep, you don't want to hurt yourself, and you don't want to hurt anybody else, right?
That's a strange question to ask somebody sitting in their car. It seems like they must have some insight into what that person may be doing. Like if the police stop you,
Well,
I don't know if
yeah,
are you going to hurt yourself is the first
right.
question they ask.
I've never been asked that. Right,
No,
I've been pulled
exactly.
over, and
Where are you
nobody's ever asked me
going?
that.
Anything, any
Right,
weapons in the car? These are the types of things the police generally
right,
ask.
right.
Hmm.
And
Well,
you've been with me when that's happened. When the
yes.
when the
And
police pulled us over looking for
in
weapons.
Thailand, yeah.
So yeah,
Now,
but
John,
they didn't say, "Are you looking to hurt somebody?" or "You looking to hurt
no.
yourself?" That wasn't one of the questions. But certainly they did ask Nassim this, and this footage is available on YouTube.
Well, we're going to take a look at that in just 10 minutes when we transition over to subscribestar.com slash I am John Cullen, subscribestar.com slash crowdsource the truth, and patreon.com slash I am John Cullen, patreon.com slash crowdsource the truth. We'll be there in 10 minutes at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank all the generous Patreon sponsors and Subscribestar sponsors who make this show possible. If you haven't seen last week's sponsor exclusive show with Zach Voorhees, I think you really need
It's
to
wild.
watch it. Zach unveiled some stuff. He revealed some information about the inner workings of YouTube that really give you a kind of a better understanding of how it operates, how the Google algorithm and artificial intelligence and all this sort of stuff kind of plays into what we're able to see or not see
One more
on the
thing,
internet.
one
Yeah.
more thing, Jason, before we go to the
Yep.
patron only hour. The title of this episode is MGM's House of Cards,
Yeah.
right? So what we're going to be digging into is our dear friend, the CEO of MGM, Jim Murren, has resigned.
Oh,
So Jim Murren stepped down as CEO of MGM. So that happened this week, and we're going to take a look at that.
wow. I hadn't heard that.
And then secondly, 48 hours after he resigned, give or take, MGM announced one of the largest data breaches in American history.
Right. But did
And
he
and that
know about
all
that and resign, or did he resign and then that happened?
it happened last summer,
Ah,
and they're just announcing it now, so he must have
wow.
known about it. But I don't think it was mentioned in his resignation. It wasn't mentioned as a reason for the resignation, so to speak, because nobody knew about it when he resigned. So he
Unbelievable.
resigned a couple days ago,
It's
and
pretty
then you'll see
unethical,
that
though,
there is
John.
a
Now, hang on. To know that your
oh,
customer's information has
abs-
been compromised and not tell anybody for months so that they could take
well,
precautions and change their.
well, it gets worse. It gets worse. There's potential for security and exchange commission violation here
Ooh.
if he has stock options or any type of equity where the price is set on his termination date. So, in other
Ooh.
words, if the date of his resignation sets his golden parachute price, and he knows that a news story is going to break within a week about something that could potentially drag the
Hurt the
stock down,
stock. Right.
that that's a Securities and Exchange Commission violation.
Wow.
That's
That's
that
pretty
would
interesting.
yeah.
Pretty interesting. Sounds like
Now
we've got.
I'm not saying he did. I'm saying if all these things were in alignment, then that would be the case. I'm
Right.
not an attorney,
All right.
but I did
Well,
play one on TV.
right. We'll get into detail on exactly that in just about 8 minutes on Subscribestar and Patreon. I hope we see everybody over there. If you can't make it, email this video to somebody that you know. Hit the thumbs up, the like button, post it on social media, tweet it, like it, Instagram it, gab it, do whatever. And we'll see everybody on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thanks for watching.